Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen. So in today's video, we're going to be talking through a really simple but very effective workout a hiker can use to help practice breathing control. And this can be really useful for a hiker who struggles getting out of breath going up steep climbs, for a hiker who may have a high altitude adventure coming up, or a hiker who just generally wants to improve their performance on slightly tougher trails. Now, this video is coming from just the other day. I put up a post on Facebook and Instagram talking about training for high altitude hiking. And I talked through a range of different things a hiker can do to help prepare for this type of environment. And one of the things that I talked about was the idea of practicing breathing control and a simple breathing control drill that hikers can use. But on a Facebook and Instagram post, the information was relatively short, relatively condensed. I did get a few messages over the last 24 hours about this and diving into some specifics. So I thought I'd do a video to break this down. It's very simple, but I want to talk through how to go about this. Now, when it comes down to it, many hikers, and probably one of the biggest issues I hear from hikers is they struggle on breathing going up steep uphills. Very common. Also, as I said before, a lot of hikers are worried about going to high altitude and really struggling with their breathing, in that type of environment. And there are a lot of contributing factors to this type of thing. And whenever I'm working with a hiker who does have these struggles, we definitely attack it from multiple angles. And we look at developing certain aspects of fitness, developing certain skills, and applying certain strategies to help with this. And one facet of this, and one contributing factor to this where we get really out of breath on hills and feel super uncomfortable, is that many hikers out there don't actually have a huge amount of control over their breathing and over their pace when going up hills and on more difficult sections of the trail. And what I mean by that is a lot of hikers kind of have this sort of speed where it's like, okay, I can either go slow or I can go fast, and there's nothing really in between. And a lot of hikers are in this situation where they can kind of climb up a hill to a certain point, but then once they start getting out of breath and they start getting breathless, they don't really have many options. They can either just push through and get really out of breath and be super uncomfortable, or they have to completely stop and completely settle things down. And there's nothing really in between. And this happens to a lot of people that I talk with, and it's a really common thing. But if you put a bit of focus on overcoming this and learning how to sort of dial back your speed and manage your breathing, it can really go a long way. And essentially one way of going about this is simply practicing and training your breathing control, and practicing and training different levels of pacing, and practicing training actually looking after your breathing while you're still moving. It can really help. So the way we go about this, and there's lots of different ways you can approach it, it is pretty straightforward. But I'm going to talk you through a really simple workout, which I quite like. Now, essentially what you do here for the workout is what you want to do is find a nice long hill, a nice long set of stairs, or if you don't have access to them, you can do this on like a Stairmaster or a step machine. You can even do this on a box step if you've just got a box or like a counter or a bench or something like that. But just basically something where we can do long periods of sustained climbing. Now, essentially what you want to do, just warm up, get a bit of blood moving around or whatever it may be. And then essentially on whatever you're on, we want to go quite quick for about 3 minutes. And during these 3 minutes, we want to push to a pace where you really do get out of breath. So the first 30 seconds, 60 seconds, you're kind of ramping into it. And then for the next period, you're really pushing. You're trying to get yourself out of breath. And you're just trying to push that and sustain that for the entire 3 minutes or for the rest of that interval. And really get yourself to the point where you're like, this isn't super uncomfortable. I'm really pushing it. Then essentially once that 3 minutes is up, once the time is done, the beep goes or whatever it may be, then essentially we want to pull back the pace for 3 minutes. We want to pull it back. And what we want to do here, as opposed to completely stopping, we want to keep on moving on this climb and keep on ascending on whatever you're doing. But we're really concentrating on pulling back our pace and concentrating on bringing our breathing down nice and controlled. Now, depending on your fitness, depending on like how hard you push and a bunch of other factors, it'll vary depending on how long it takes to kind of get this breathing down. It may take 30 seconds, may take 60 seconds, may take 90 seconds or 2 minutes for you to get your breathing down. Whatever it is, that's totally fine. But just concentrate on continually moving, continually climbing, but bringing the breathing down. And ideally what we want to get back down to is what we call nose breathing pace, is when you're climbing and you can breathe in and out through the nose. So essentially what it will look like, you do 3 minutes, breathing starts relatively steady, we push quicker and quicker, breathing gets really out of breath. The next 3 minutes, probably the first 30 seconds, you kind of huffed and puffed, but you're trying to bring it down and settle. And then once it gets a little bit slower, a little bit steadier, then we go into that nose breathing. And essentially we sustain that until the next 3 minutes is up, and then go quick. Then slow, then quick, then slow, then quick for 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 minutes. And we ultimately repeat this as many times as you like, obviously depending on how this feels, obviously depending on what time you have available or whatever it may be. It's very, very, very simple, but this is really effective because you're getting exposed to this quicker breathing, you're getting exposed to this lower breathing, you're learning how to pace, and it's also, on top of that, it's just a really, really good training workout because we're continually climbing for such a long period and can be really, really useful. Now, a few tips to kind of get the most out of this. If you're in a situation where you're like, hey, I actually can't actually do a sustained long climb like this. I don't really have a super long hill or set of stairs. I don't have a Stairmaster, and maybe I hate the box step or something like that. You can do this on a shorter set of hill or stairs, but basically alternate between the two. So you may do one climb, and it may like climb for 3 or 4 minutes if you've just got like a hill, and do that quick. Then you walk down the bottom and then go up this time a little bit slower. And then the next climb you go quick, the next climb you go slower. It's not exactly the same because there's a little bit more bent down time, but it can still get a relatively similar result. With this particular workout, if you ever do feel like this is too easy and you're like, hey, you know what, I'm just cruising through this, I'm not having any trouble, then what that means is in these quicker sections, you just need to push quicker. You can make this as difficult as you want by just pushing quicker, pushing harder on those 3 minutes. If you find this is too difficult, then you may have to actually manage your pace a little bit on that. So you're getting to this stage where you are getting a bit out of breath, but maybe not 100% gasping for air. And then when you practice it for a week or two and you get a little bit more confident, a little bit better with this, then you can ramp up the speed and challenge yourself a little bit more. And then with any workout, basically we always do want to make sure we are progressing this over time. So we're not just doing the same workout again and again and again, but we're making it more difficult in one way or another. So a few simple ways you can progress this. You could do a little bit more each week. You could literally just do an extra interval every single week, and that's fine. You could potentially, do some steeper climbs. You could do 2 weeks on one hill, then 2 weeks on a hill that's a bit steeper, then 2 weeks on a hill that's a bit steeper again. If that sometimes doesn't work, but that is an option. Or you could even introduce a bit of pack weight. You could do body weight the first week. You could wear a 3 kilo pack the next week, a 4 kilo pack the next week, and so forth, so forth. But just thinking, okay, how can I make this a little bit more challenging myself each week? But all in all, if you are looking at helping improve in your breathing up hills, this can be a really, really good workout. I wouldn't say it's the only thing you want to be doing because there's a lot of other facets that goes into this type of thing, but it can be a really, really, really great workout. Just help practice that breathing control, help practice that pacing, and just feel a little bit more comfortable in these types of situations. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that makes sense and hopefully just expands on this for a few people who were asking about it. If anyone has any questions of that, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help.